Welcome to the Sage Women podcast, hosted by Melanie White and Dr. Nick Engera. We have real conversations with real women, health professionals, and coaches who share stories about perimenopause, menopause, and a range of women's health issues. Please subscribe so you get the latest updates every fortnight.
Today, I'm really thrilled to be speaking with Janet, who's going to talk about some of her experiences with menopause. Janet, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Melanie.
Could you give us a little bit of a background about you so we know a bit of your story?
Sure. I'm 60 and I retired 2 years ago. I live with my partner and have an empty nester. Our children have left home. I like creative things and sport. I like exercising, and I'm a fairly social person. So yeah, I guess empty nester and retirement are the things that have happened to me most recently.
And this podcast is about perimenopause and menopause. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're up to in that journey?
Okay, well, it feels like I have been on this journey for 10 years or more.
I thought you were going to say forever.
Feels like forever, actually, when you say it, but it actually has been 10 years or more. All of the hot flushes and brain fog and irritability, weight gain, all of those things have been going on for over 10 years. And I expected they would last for a few years and then go away, but they haven't.
Yeah.
And I was fairly stubborn in wanting to do it naturally and not wanting to have any kind of medical intervention with hormones or any kind of actual chemical intervention. I wanted to do it naturally. I just kept telling myself it was a natural process and you don't fight it and it will work itself out. But that kind of didn't happen. It went on and on and on. So yeah, that's been my experience, and it's not. I've not solved it yet. I'm still all kinds of things. The hot flushes and brain fog is huge for me still. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
And you mentioned not wanting to do HRT. Is that something that you ended up considering?
Yes. Basically, I was pretty much at the end of my tether. I went to the doctor and said, I've either got ADD, it's menopause, or I'm going insane. And I was quite expecting her to say the latter, that I'd actually just lost the plot. But she said it was menopause and offered me HRT. And I had been offered it in the past, but declined. And this time, having tried sort of exercising and, I don't know, meditation and healthy diet and all of those things. But an underlying issue for me has always been alcohol, which is what I turn to when I'm feeling stressed and anxious. So I blamed myself and I thought the reason I'm not better is because I haven't done all the things I'm supposed to do. I'm still eating chocolate, and I'm still drinking wine and I'm not exercising. I constantly beat myself up and blamed myself. So how can I go to the doctor and say, I'm not well, I'm not having a happy time, when I'm not doing everything I should be doing to help myself? So I was constantly beating myself up, which of course just made everything worse.
That sounds really, Janet.
I'm sorry, Melly, sounds...
That sounds really tough.
Well, it was very tough. And yeah, it stopped me from taking help from anywhere, I think, because I just thought the first reaction was, this is natural, this is what you're have to go through. And then, unless I could be perfect, I had no right to complain. It was my
Right.
fault
Okay.
that I was in this position. So I went on HRT because I really was at the end of my tether,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on it for perhaps about 6-8 months. I felt a lot better, but then I had a bleed because my estrogen levels were too high. I had to have a D&C, which was, I didn't want to have that either, but I was left with no option. And then I took myself off HRT because I wasn't prepared to go through that again. And that was the only option that I had. And so I kind of washed my hands of the medical assistance and have been trying to battle on. And I'm pretty well, haven't made a lot of progress.
Sorry to hear that. And it must have been difficult to finally turn to HRT and realise that either it or the care that you were getting wasn't quite right in supporting you with that process.
Well, yes, because a lot of my girlfriends, obviously, I have a lot of friends my age, and we're similar, lots of my friends with similar issues. And I was so excited to share with them that HRT was this amazing golden bullet that was going to solve all my problems. And I felt great. And then I felt like a fool having to admit to them, oh, sorry, it didn't work. And it wasn't the solution for me. And I felt stupid that I felt like I'd done it to myself.
Yeah. I'm wondering what some of the positives are that have come out of this time of your life.
Well, I think it's taken a while, but I do feel more empowered. I feel more that I can have an opinion and speak my mind a little bit more, especially around younger people or other people. Dare I say, some of the men in my life that have always been very dominant, and so now I'm feeling like I have enough strength and and confidence in myself that I can speak out. And when even in public situations where there are younger people that I don't have any, I feel I have some authority to speak and have an opinion. And it's funny, I was walking down the street yesterday, I was wheeling a big trolley, and these young women were walking towards me, and they had to get off the footpath because I was on the footpath with this big trolley. And I said, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm taking up the whole footpath. And one of the women said to me, don't apologise for taking up space. And I said, thank you. What an amazing thing to say to me. She was really young, maybe in her 20s.
Wow.
And she turned to me, grey-haired 60-year-old woman, and said, don't you apologise for taking up space. And I thought, that's an awesome thing to say to me.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of how I feel, that it's all right for me to exist and have an opinion and be present. Whereas probably in the, over the last 5 or so years, I wasn't feeling like that.
How do you think that's come about, that you've had this change of opinion or the ability to you said, feel stronger and have an opinion and speak up for yourself?
That's a good question. I expect it's
because everyone wants to know the answer so they can go and buy that on Amazon.
I suppose I'm reflecting on my past and on things that I've been through where I feel as though I have been dominated by other people, and just reassuring myself that I've actually made some good decisions in my life and I'm actually a good person. Okay, I've made mistakes and I've done some things I guess regret or would do differently if I had my time again. But I think being comfy in your own skin and accepting, yes, it's accepting that it's okay to be who you are. But how have I got, the question is, Janet, how did you get to that? I guess
I've got a book of hard questions here.
obviously.
Well, you just said that you took time to reflect on your life. I'm wondering if that's part of it.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of being thankful for what you've got and being thankful for what you've achieved. And just looking back and saying, yeah, I've been a good friend, I've been a good mum, I've been a good partner or a good worker when I was working, you just think, and people, I guess turning 60, perhaps that's what it is, a bit of reflection. And and also people around me. I have a lot of female friends, and discussing things with them has been very helpful. And I'm reassuring them that they're good people. And then I'm like, well, we're all going through the same thing. And my girlfriends, we all discuss this. That's something that I think is really important, is to meet with your female friends to talk about these things. And that's been incredibly helpful. And I have good friends who will say to me, you look good, or you're a good person, or, which is finding those people. And maybe, actually, the penny has dropped. Distancing myself from people in my life who make me feel bad about myself, giving them, not being rude to them or avoiding them necessarily, but keeping them at arm's length and keeping the people close to you and spending time with the people that make you feel good about yourself. So just being a bit more selective about who I actually spend my time with, I think.
Right. Sounds like you made a conscious decision to be more selective, be around the people that you can have those important conversations with, and being aware of those people that you don't want influencing you and holding them at arm's length.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think I was very conscious of image and how I looked and wanting people to like me. It was very important to me that everybody liked me. And I would go out, if someone I thought didn't like me, then I'd go out of my way to try and win them over, and to having the confidence to be, well, that's okay, that person isn't my kind of person, and that's okay to just leave them on the periphery and spend my time with the people that are my people. And it's kind of needing to have your ego stroked all the time, and having, I guess it's kind of, low self-esteem is what it is. And you're wanting other people to build you up and tell you how great you are, and letting that go and being more confident in myself. So, I think that's what happened. There was a major shift in what I was doing. And then, I started moving in different circles of people, and that was a lot more supportive, people who were more supportive of me. Yeah.
Did that coincide with your retirement, or was it a different time?
It was actually, now I think about it, it was the same time. So a couple of things happened at once. I stopped working, and that was an environment where I was constantly a people pleaser, wanting people approval all the time. I wanted to be a good worker and do a good job and turn myself inside out. And people would always ask me to do things because I always did them immediately. And then they'd say, oh, that was great. And then more people would just give you more stuff to do. I just became the person that did everything for everybody. And I liked it because I was like, oh, these people are
getting good feedback.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm indispensable. Makes me feel good about myself. But it wasn't real. It was just they wanted someone to do all their dog's body work for them. So I finished up being all things to all people and got a bit lost in the mix. So when I stopped working, I was very lost because I didn't have that constant adulation all the time, or even just your pay packet. I mean, that's confirmation that you've done something, reward for your.
Yeah.
So it's about not needing that, not needing that adulation and confirmation from other people that you're a good person. It's like finding that from inside yourself. So yeah, there was a couple of things that happened at the same time, that I was moving in different circles.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. I don't need other people to tell me I'm a good person. I don't need other people to go, you look great or whatever. Yeah, it's about being comfy in your own skin, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Totally, it's about that. And it's really interesting that you had this time to reflect and you had a couple of major life changes. I'm wondering if giving up work gave you this time and space to think about your life and who you are and who you've been and who you'd like to be, or did you create that space for reflection somehow else?
I think it was giving up work because I know not everybody can give up work, obviously, but I loved going to work and I loved getting dressed up to go to work and, putting on nice clothes and your makeup and choosing your jewelry. And I loved all that. And then when I wasn't going to work, I just felt like I was in my tracksuit all day or nowhere to go. I was very lost. I felt like I could disappear and no one would notice. I mean, that sounds pretty grim, doesn't it? But I kind of felt like I was useless.
I know what you're talking about. I've actually had that feeling myself. If I wasn't here, what would happen? And not in a mental health way, but just kind of looking at my place on the planet. It sounds like you had that same thought process too. And I'm wondering, it sounds a bit like a sense of purpose. You're at this job for so many years, you're valued as an employee, your peers give you acknowledgement. And then all of that's gone suddenly and you're in your trackies going, how did I get here? And what is my purpose now? It's a huge time of life of redefining who you are and having to let go of that old identity. So it's no wonder that you were feeling that way, I guess.
Definitely. I do spend a lot of time in nature. Like I do a lot of bushwalking, do a lot of traveling, and I spend a lot of time at the beach. I think that's had a huge impact as well. And I just being out in nature, and it gives you a huge perspective of your place on the planet, like that you were just part of this larger picture and you're actually not in charge of anything really. You're just
what a relief.
yes, you're just actually part of the big the picture. You're not that important. You're just part of nature. We're just animals like every other animal. And I think that is huge for me. That makes a huge difference to my attitude to life and just makes me happier and takes away the anxiety, which is a huge part of my menopause journey, has been anxiety. Huge. So, yeah.
Can I ask, is that the reason you chose to retire early? Was it all getting too much?
In hindsight, absolutely. At the time, I just thought everybody else was horrible. I just thought everyone else, there was something wrong with everyone else. There was nothing wrong with me. They were all just awful. And I had to retire to get away from all these horrible people. I shouldn't say that, not horrible people, a horrible environment. That's not fair because they weren't horrible people. It was just stressful, very, very stressful.
Right.
And the longer I stayed, I went part-time and then even more part-time. I think I finished up at 2 days a week or something, or 3 days a week. And I was overwhelmed by everything. Things that I could do easily 5 years ago, I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't remember things. I was overwhelmed with everything. And that made me kind of short-tempered and cross. And then I come home from work feeling cross. But now I look back on it, I think that was all anxiety and menopause related. And I think perhaps if I had dealt with it, then I probably could have continued to work. So I don't think it was, I do think I left work because of menopause. I do think that's why I couldn't. And now I say I don't, because of the brain fog and the anxiety, I don't think I could work in any kind of stressful job anyway.
Yeah, I hear that. And it sounds like spending time in nature and with other people is really great therapy for you in a way, to call it.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel very grateful that I can do that, because obviously not everyone can retire. You have to keep working. So, and I get really annoyed at this expression that people have referring to middle-aged women as in a derogatory way, and saying, oh, she's just menopausal, or she's a cranky old cow, or whatever they say. I think it's so it's so mean, and they have no understanding what it's like. We're extremely patient and kind and empathetic to teenagers who are going through hormonal changes. But when women are going through a hormonal change, we're just labelled as cranky old ladies, and I think that's really, I call it out when people start saying stuff like that. I go, you don't know what it's like, And they're talking about their grandmothers and saying how, oh, I remember when I was young, my grandmother was really cranky and whatever. And I'm going, well, how old was she? What do you think was happening for her at that time? And she was probably, scrubbing the floors and doing the washing and cooking, and grandpa was probably sitting there with his cup of tea, I just think it's rude.
I think these days, my opinion is that there's a lot of people who are focusing on themselves and how they feel, and perhaps not understanding what other people might be going through and feeling. And as you say, it comes out in how people speak about each other without that compassion or empathy or understanding.
Well, I certainly used to call people out on it. And I mean, not everybody's as confident as me, but if I hear people being rude about a middle-aged woman or a menopausal lady for whatever, I just go, no, that's not fair. She's going through something, and you need to be supportive and understanding.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything workplaces could be doing to make it easier for menopausal women or perimenopausal women? And I'm just going to maybe preface that with the statistics that you mentioned, leaving work early, and depending on which study you read, 1 in 8 women are leaving work due to menopause, and another 2 in 8 want to but can't afford it. And another statistic says a quarter of the workforce is leaving by age 52 because of menopause symptoms. I think it's 52. And 2/3 of women are too embarrassed to ask for help. So given that kind of recent study that's been done, is there something that you think is important for workplaces to do to support the women that choose to stay at work, or to help women consider their options and stay at work longer, or not?
Well, I think certainly having a place at work, a space at work, where a quiet place, a cool, quiet place where you can go and sit and have a cup of tea or a cold drink, where it's a silent space. Like, it's not a place for you to come and ask me questions. When you know, to have an actual break, or at any point in the day, if you need to take 5, just go and sit in this quiet, I don't know, play some nice music or have a garden out the window or something like that. Just a cool, quiet place where you can go and sit. It doesn't have to be only for women, but it's like, there's no talking in here. It's you come in here, you sit quietly, you listen to some music, you have your cup of tea, whatever. No talking. It's a silent place. That's what I certainly needed when I was at work. A way to just get away from it all when it becomes overwhelming. Take 5 minutes, and then come back to your desk or wherever when you feel that you're okay again. And lunchtime just becomes a time to sit around and talk about work, to have a lot. And, you know, if you can leave the building or go for a walk, well and good, but not all places you can do that. You need a break. And insisting that people take their breaks. A lot of women will, well, I shouldn't just say women, a lot of people sit at their desks during their lunch break. And no, I would be insisting you walk away, go away and have your own space. And I would also think maybe you could have a day off, you know. I mean, I know sick leave's available, but you should be able to say, you know, I'm menopausal. Can I go home this afternoon? I'm not well. That should be a valid reason to have some sick leave, you know, instead of having to make something up. You know, you should just be able to say,
because nothing exists.
Yes, exactly. You can say we're allowed to say you've got period pain, but I mean, what do you say? I'm
menopause pain.
Exactly. I have a menopause brain. I need to go home.
Yeah, menopause moments. We need to come up with a term for it, don't we?
Yes, and not making fun. Honestly, not making fun of women being hot.
Yeah.
You know, they make fun of you. As I said, right, it's a standard joke. Oh my goodness, it's cold in this office. It must have a lot of, you know, menopausal women in it. Well, it's not a joke.
We don't laugh about any other health conditions. We don't say, oh, ha, 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 you've got a broken arm.
Yes.
Such and such has left the door propped open. Must be all these people with shoulder injuries.
Yes.
We don't do that.
Yeah. And it's just, having a bit more empathy. But yeah, definitely. I mean, at least we're talking about it now. I mean, back in the day, my mum's day, no one would have it was like a taboo subject. You wouldn't have talked about it, at least. But now, instead of that, they're making fun of us, which isn't helpful. So,
and I think the other thing that we've talked about today is that you said that you realise now on reflection that menopause was probably the reason that you left work. And I think if we're not talking about things like this, then people aren't aware of their symptoms and linking that with menopause, and then they can't do anything about it because then they don't have the awareness. So how do we raise awareness and support people through that process so that they can get the right help at the right time, manage their symptoms, and things like anxiety and workplace stress definitely could be supported by workplaces for sure. And then knowing your treatment options, there's so many studies coming out now about the role of exercise and different sorts of modalities that can be used. And the study I've seen recently on exercise is that if you do these particular things, they're more effective if you get them in perimenopause than postmenopause. So we need to get in as early as possible so we can prevent or minimise symptoms rather than try and mop them up afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always exercised. I like exercising, and that's always been hugely beneficial, hugely. But yeah, I just think it's still people talk about it as though it's oh, you know, those ladies are all those ladies in the office are all menopausal, or oh, you know, she's like it's a totally negative thing, and like we can't help her, she's just lost the plot, you know.
Yeah. It needs to be a different conversation.
Poor Janet, she's lost the plot. Yeah, they're almost waiting for you to leave. They think she's getting worse and worse. She's not coping anymore. She's cranky and can't cope. So yeah, we're just waiting for her to go. Her time's up. And that's what you feel like. You feel like, okay, that's it. I've lost. I'm not useful anymore.
And what I love about what you've described today, as we come to the end of this episode, is that you've really talked about, yes, you've had some struggles with the symptoms and you've sought medical help and that didn't work, but you have also, it sounds like, made some really quite profound changes in your attitude, in who you surround yourself with. You've discovered that being with other people and being in nature is incredibly helpful for you in reducing stress and anxiety. And I think I'm hearing that you were lost for a while after leaving work, but it sounds like you have a greater sense of purpose and you found meaningful things to do in life. It sounds like you're coming out the other side of that difficult period.
Yeah, I think so. It's about self-acceptance and accepting that I am 60 years old and that's okay. And it's okay that I can't, keep up with a 30-year-old in the gym class anymore. And I've got a lot of things that younger people don't have. I've got a lot of wisdom and I think accepting that being 60 is okay. It's a good place to be. And counting, this whole gratitude thing, people talk about it a lot, but it's incredibly important, I think, to be grateful for what you have and be happy that I'm 60. I'm still here.
Absolutely. Janet, thanks so much for your time and for being very open and honest. And I want to acknowledge the things that you've shared today, some very personal anecdotes, and we really appreciate that. I'm sure people listening to this will feel a sense of kinship, and hopefully this helps someone to feel like they're not alone. It's not just them, and that they might be able to reach out and get some support. So thank you.
Thanks, Mel. I do hope that I've helped some people as well. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.